We've added electrodes allowing you to take an electrocardiogram.
I was like, wow, they must really like what we've done.
The medical device company Alivecor was stunned because its accessory for Apple Watch had been out for a year before Apple's announcement.
And Alivecor says it does almost the exact same thing.
Now you can take an ECG anytime, anywhere, right from your wrist.
Alivecor is one in a long list of companies and developers I spoke with describing similar encounters with Apple. There's even a word for this. It's Sherlocking. Often companies say they find out they've been Sherlocked when the rest of us find out.
When they're watching Apple's big product events like the Worldwide Developer Conference or WWDC in June.
Welcome to WWDC.
So what exactly is Sherlocking, and what happens when these companies sue Apple? And who might be saying they're Sherlocked next? Back in 2002, Apple awarded an independent app search tool called Watson an Apple Design Award. But later that year, Apple announced an upgrade to its existing document search tool, Sherlock. It added web searching capabilities that directly competed with Watson. But since then, developers say Apple has built a reputation for Sherlocking others. Apple told the Journal that it doesn't steal technology and that it respects the intellectual property of other companies. Alivecor says its chain of events unfolded like this. The company designed its heart rhythm tracking product for Apple Watch in 2016. A year later, an Apple executive reached out to talk about the possibility of working together.
And then he followed it up with, we might try to find a way to work with you, but we might compete with you.
At Apple's big hardware event in September 2018, it introduced the Apple Watch 4 with competing heart tracking software and an updated operating system. My colleague Aaron Tilley investigated Apple's patent behavior. He says Apple also recruited Alivecor's employees and targeted the company's patents.
And what the Patent Trial and Appeal Board lets them do is they can invalidate patents of other companies.
The board can review challenged patents and determine if they're invalid, or basically if they should have never been granted in the first place. Alivecor found itself in a years-long battle with Apple. A judge ruled in 2022 that Apple infringed on its patents. Apple is fighting that ruling and says many of the patent violation claims it faces are overly broad. The company says that it will continue to protect its innovations and that it was working on heart tracking technology for the Apple Watch for 3 years before it launched. The battle is ongoing. Apple controls multiple product lines of devices, which gives it a lot of power. Through the App Store, Apple can track and learn what people want and use that information to plan its own product development. It can also deeply link its apps with its devices in a way that third-party apps just can't. That can result in apps designed specifically for Apple hardware, making the original third-party applications seemingly less necessary. It can also offer its native apps for no additional charge by folding the software development costs into the price of its hardware. This gives users more value and reduces the need for third-party apps. Apple may save money in the long run by developing more of its parts in-house rather than buying or partnering with other companies.
They don't love paying a lot to buy a company. If they don't see a point in buying the company, mostly because it's too expensive, or maybe the IP isn't directly related to what they want, they can just hire these companies' employees. They can target them, recruit them.
Choosing not to work with Apple could mean losing out on more than 2 billion devices around the world, which is why so many developers say they cooperate despite knowing there's a chance they could get Sherlocked. Apple says all developers can update their services to meet its operating system requirements.
If you want to play in the Apple ecosystem, you also face the potential that Apple will become a competitor of yours.
Still, more companies are choosing to fight. The Bluetooth tracker company Tile testified in front of Congress in 2021, alleging that Apple copied its location tracking technology. Apple says its competing Find My network was introduced in 2010, well before Tile launched its first product. The software developer Blix has called on others to join in its fight against the iPhone maker.
And it was a difficult choice for us. Winning an antitrust case for a private company is incredibly hard.
Blix sued Apple, claiming that the company copied its anonymous email sign-in tool with Sign In with Apple and suppressed Blix's iPhone app in search results. A federal judge dismissed the case. At the time, Apple said it acted legally by introducing its own innovative products that promote competition.
It's very expensive to sue Apple. They fight really hard. They fight as if it's their last fight. And it costs millions.
For some developers, getting Sherlocked may signal major changes ahead. The startup behind Watson stopped supporting the Mac version in 2004. Others shift their focus to different apps and products. Developers say Sherlocking hurts end users too. That's because a scrappy startup focusing on one thing may want to provide a deeper, richer experience than you'd find elsewhere. While Apple may be more inclined to pick key features that pair well with its other apps and services.
When we talk about antitrust in this country, a lot of it's focused on consumer harm. That's tricky because it's hard to measure.
So who might say they're Sherlocked next? Aaron reported that Apple will likely announce a new mental health journaling app, which could easily compete with Day One. It previously won an Apple Design Award, and its founder told the Journal that the conversations with Apple suddenly stopped. The co-founder of another journaling app called Dailyo says that this move by Apple would be concerning, but it believes its users aren't going anywhere.
We don't know the future. I might be painfully mistaken.
Then there is wide speculation about new hardware for developers, which could introduce an entirely new ecosystem of ideas for Apple to draw inspiration from.
The headset is kind of the main attraction at this upcoming developer conference. They're going to be learning about the market, what the market wants, what it needs, how consumers are using the headset.
It's not illegal for Apple to cherry pick ideas that might be similar to what developers have already come up with, and then integrate those features into future products. But if independent developers feel like their ideas will just get Sherlocked, they may start to get demotivated and stop innovating.